Hello and welcome back to the channel. So I got a new hard drive for the desktop here, and I figured let's do something slightly different. Let's actually show you me setting up my actual device, main desktop here. Will be a Arch Linux install, but I've got a few new things to go through here. First we're doing UEFI this time, and we're going to use logical volume management, LVM, and we're going to use LUKS encryption. So, and finally, we're going to use systemd boot, which seems pretty cool. I like it. So, go to your favorite boot UEFI BIOS utility, and make sure you do not select the legacy. Make sure you do select the UEFI option, and that it says UEFI there on the screen on the first little thing there. So, let's wait for that to boot up. It's got a big monitor here, 27-inch, so the text is going to be really small. I apologize for the slight fisheye appearance here, but it is it's a GoPro I'm using here, so hopefully it's not catching the edge of that thing. So yeah, the text will be really small, but the first thing I'll do will be to install a larger font. So bear with me for just a few minutes here. So first thing is going to be Pacman -SYY to sync the mirrors since this system's never been synced. Terminus font and Vim. Yep. Shouldn't take long, it's just a few packages. The font or Vim likes to take in a few Xorg packages, which is interesting. Okay. Clear, and we're going to do a Pacman capital Q, lowercase l for terminus font, and we're going to see a bunch of options here. I'm going to use size 28, and I'm going to use 28B, I believe. So I'm going to use set font ter v28 B. So, oops. Ter. There we go. Should be pretty easy to read, I hope. So the next thing we want to do is confirm we are booted via EFI. So ls sys firmware EFI. And if there's anything in this folder, then you are indeed booted via EFI. So next thing we want to do is take a look at the disks. LSBLK will tell you the different hard drives. This is my new 500 gig hard drive. This is my data drive. I'm going to encrypt this and install this encrypted, and I'm also going to encrypt SDB. I haven't figured out how to mount an encrypted data secondary drive during boot yet, so I'm probably going to have to do this after booting in. You know, mount the part, unencrypt it, mount it, and then start using it. I haven't figured out how to do it during boot yet. I just freeze up during installation, so I'm going to keep working on that. Maybe I'll follow up with another video on how to do that later. There's a thing called Crypt Tab that probably has something to do with it, but I haven't been successful doing it. So, okay, with that being said, let's go ahead and use, you need to use a variant of G disk. You can't use F disk. You want to use, I use CG disk, and we're going to do dev SDA. We got an existing file system in here. I just made a kind of a generic one, so let's go ahead and delete it. And we create a new one, and we're going to start it at 0. It's really not 0, it's 2048. And we're going to end it at 512 M for 512 megabytes. We're going to call it EF00 for boot. We're going to call it boot EFI. Go to the next empty space, another new one. From the beginning to the end, we're going to call this 8E00, I believe. Yeah, that's LVM. And we're going to call this Arch LVM. And we're going to verify it, make sure there's no issues. No problems found, good. And right, and type out yes. And we can go ahead and quit. And I'm going to do the same thing for SDB. And again, I just have a generic placeholder in here. We're going to delete it. create a new one from the beginning to the end. We're going to call it 8E00 again. We're going to call this data. Verify, yep, no problems found. Right, type yes. And we can go ahead and quit. Clear that out and do the LSBLK again, and we see we have our two partitions, one of these, and if we wanted to do an F disk, L of dev SDA, we'll see that we have, we don't want to do S, we want to do a G disk, L dev SDA. We see that we do have a GPT present, which is what we need. We have an EFI of 512 megs in size, and the rest is an LVM. Okay, very good. So now we have that EFI partition, and we can pretty much be done with it by going mkfs.fat, capital F32, dev SDA1. So we're going to leave it alone at that point. We pretty much just mount it and we're done until the installation phase. So once that's done, we begin our encryption steps, which is Crypt Setup, Y for confirm passphrase, V for verbose, LUKS format, dev SDA2. And yes, we're sure. Oh, sorry, we need to do that with a capital yes. My bad. Passphrase is, I screwed that up. Screwed that up again. Hopefully I didn't screw that up. It would be really bad if I did. If I did the same screw up twice, then I'd never get back in. Okay, cool. Okay, so Crypt Setup is done. Let's do Crypt, if I can learn how to type. Crypt Setup, open, type, LUKS, dev, SDA2, and we're going to call this main volume, we're going to call it Arch LV, logical volume, Arch logical volume. Type. Derp. There we go. That should do it. All right. Now that we've done that, let's do an ls of dev mapper arch lv, and it does exist, so we know we created it. All right. So now under this logical volume, we're going to create a physical volume. So pv create. Call this dev mapper arch lv. Physical volume successfully created. And then we do a virtual group create arch vg virtual group. Try to keep it logical volume, then virtual group underneath it. It's going to be dev mapper arch under the arch lv. Okay. And yeah, so under this volume group, we create logical volumes. So LV create, capital L. I'm going to do 16 gigs of under arch VG. And we're going to name it swap. And we're going to do an LV create. The size, well, let me just go 30 gigs, should be big enough. Arch VG in root. And we're going to do LV create lowercase l 100% free, all caps, under arch VG, and call that home. And so now if we do an LSBLK again, we'll see that we have under SDA2, we have a logical volume, arch LV, and under each that is a arch virtual group home. So hope that makes sense. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do SB1 now. You can skip this if you want, so bear with me. So I'm going to go through the same thing again. So I'm going to do Crypt Setup YV LUKS format. You know what, I'm going to do this at the top. So I'm going to do okay, Crypt Setup. Make sure that's right. YV LUKS format dev SDB1. Yes. Okay, sorry I'm not talking while I do that. I don't want to screw it up. Again, you want it to be a strong password that nobody will ever figure out. So crypt setup open type LUKS dev SDB1, and we're going to call this data logical volume just to be consistent. Okay, and ls dev mapper data LV does exist, so we're good. I'm going to do a pv create dev mapper data LV. You do a volume group create, and we're going to call this data virtual group just to be consistent. Dev mapper data under the data logical volume. Hopefully this helps kind of cement in what we did on the first time through, so maybe it'll help just to watch it. So we're just going to do an LV create L 100% free under our data VG. I'm going to call this N, we're going to call this data. Yeah, you want to call it lowercase or uppercase? Let's call that, be consistent, make it lowercase. Okay, so LSBLK again, and you see we have an arch logical volume with these groups underneath it, and we have a data logical volume with the data groups underneath it. Okay. Okay, so let's start with the operating system. We're going to do a mkfs.ext4 for dev mapper yeah, okay, arch vg root and clear. We're going to do the same thing for home. Okay, we're going to make swap for dev mapper arch vg swap. I always use tab completion to make sure I'm using the right name for that. And we'll go ahead and do swap on dev mapper arch vg swap. And we'll do a free memory to make sure that it's good. It is good. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to do an mkfs.ext. Again, this is an extra step. Dev mapper data VG data. Yeah. This might take a while. It's 4 gigs or 4 terabytes. Take a drink here. Hopefully that's clear for everybody. I kind of checked it. It's with a bold, large font. It should be okay, I think. Okay. And let's just do an LSBLK again, just because we want to make sure we know what we're doing here. Yeah. So it's clear. Okay. So the next step is to mount I'm not going to mount the data yet because yeah, it is giving me trouble. So let's do a mount dev mapper arch vg root to mount, and mk directory mount boot. We'll do the that's actually so SDA1 to mount boot. Sorry, I kind of went a little bit off script there, but hopefully you followed along. And we'll do let's back up again. So we need to make a mk directory mount home and home to mount home. Okay, so we've mounted root, boot, and home. Swap on is activated, so yeah, that should be good. Let's make sure here. Root is mounted, boot is mounted, home is mounted, and then we have swap is activated. Okay, cool. Okay, so the next thing is to install the base system. And again, I'm not mounting that other one because it's going to screw me up. So let's do a pacman s for reflector. If I can learn how to type. And we're going to do reflector C United States F12 L, so fastest 12, latest 12 to be synced, verbose, and we're going to save in etc pacman.d mirror list. This will just make the installation go a lot faster. Okay, good. Clear that out. So now we do pack strap to mount of base devel sudo. All right, we already did vim. It's good enough. Hopefully this won't take too long. Between 5 and 7, maybe 8. That's pretty good. It's definitely worth doing that reflector installation early. I've had a couple of these go only hundreds of kilobytes, and it takes forever. So I'm only going to get to the point where we log into the base system, and let me know if you want me to continue. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow. It's getting kind of late, but I'll just post this to so that it uploads or releases in the morning. And yeah, maybe I'll make another video showing how I finish and current solution for mounting that encrypted media drive. Really, that's the funny thing is it's cool and all to have the operating system encrypted, but it's the data that you want encrypted, right? And there's got to be a way to do it. I know there's this thing that's called Crypt Tab, but like I said, I've tried a few different versions, and all I did pretty much is lock up the system every time, trying to uncrypt it. So before I get the whole system pimped out completely, probably before I do anything else, I'll try to figure that out maybe tomorrow morning, how to, again, the problem is I need to mount an encrypted external drive. It's in the computer, but it's a separate hard drive, so I need to mount this volume here during boot so that I can have this data mapped via FS tab to my home directory so that I can store all my stuff conveniently. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'd have this mounted as like media data, and then have all my videos and personal information, and have symlinks into my home directory. That's how I currently do it, so that I don't fill up my SSD with data. Okay, so now that that's done, lsmnt, got all our stuff, good. So now that we've got everything mounted, we can do a gen fs. Let's go to the top. Gen fs tab, p mount to mount etc fs tab, and let's do a cat mount etc fs tab. You know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to remove that. And I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to use the UIDs. So if we do this again, you see that instead of using dev mapper, actually, I think it's prettier. It actually calls archvg root instead of during unencryption. It calls this UUID. So actually, I'm gonna do that again, and I'm gonna just do the regular one. Sorry for the wishy-washy there. So what I just did is basically went back to the dev SDA. So, okay. A little bit unsure, but I'm just remembering the last time I did this, it just kept saying UUID instead of referencing the actual name of the partition trying to mount when encrypted. Okay. So now we can do an arch to root to mount. LNS, if I can learn how to type. LNS user share zone info America Los Angeles to etc local time. We're going to do the clock, HW clock, SYS TOHC, and UTC. Password, another password. Vim etc locale.gen. Oh, thought I installed it, but again, that's on the base system. Oops. And do a reason I like Vim is I just do a search for en_us, and I got them right here. Yay! So much easier. Clear locale gen, and now we do locale into etc locale.conf, and what that does is it puts all this stuff in here. Normally that would be empty. For some reason it doesn't call it out in the installation anymore. So I just started doing this now. Seems to work fine. Okay. Echo. That's what I call my host computer to, what is it? etc host name. And vim etc hosts. And how do we do this? Bear with me here. I will get this figured out. Okay. I think that's right. Okay. All right, so really important part here is you got to mess around with mkinit.conf. Do a search for hooks, and we'll find it down at the bottom. There we go. Okay, so before file systems, we need to do keyboard encrypt LVM2, and we can delete that. Save. And clear. Leave that for a second. Again, we put keyboard before encrypt so that we can unencrypt it, and we put LVM before file systems because the file systems are under the LVM. So we need to load the keyboard first to unencrypt it, and then we need to do this first so that it can even see the file systems. So that's the whole point of what we just did. Okay, so now we do an mkinit p Linux, regenerate the init ramfs and the VM Linux. Okay, this part this is where it's kind of new, but it's really not that bad because I'll show you a trick. And I'll give props to the guys that I got this from on YouTube. So we need to do a boot ctl path, and it equals boot, real simple, install. It found, yeah, created the entry there, okay. Clear. Now that that's done, now it gets a little bit crazy. So vim etc, sorry, boot, and loader, and loader.conf. And we got to clear this out because for some reason it's in there, shouldn't be. And we're going to do default arch timeout. I usually do something like 5 seconds. And then editor 0. So nobody can go to the end of the kernel and do some type of overwrite to get into your system, basically. So that prevents the, you can hit E and append the end of the kernel during the loading during grub. Well, that won't let you. So it's pretty secure. Okay, so now that we have Arch, we do vim boot loader entries arch.conf. That's a new file, does not exist yet. We're going to do title. We're going to call it Arch Linux, and then get all cool. Encrypted. Maybe I'll put that in parentheses. Nice. I don't like how, I think it's just a text string, should be fine. And if it borks it, then I'll do it later, do something later. So we do Linux VM Linux dash Linux init ram init rd, sorry, init rd init ramfs dash linux dot img. And then, so this is where it gets, where the encryption starts coming in. Options, crypt device equals UUID equals, and this is where it gets kind of cool, because this would be a serious pain in the ass. You'd have to go to like another TTY, somehow copy the UUID of the Arch, or of the SDA2. Yeah, it would be a pain in the butt. So what you do here is you get back into Vim. This is why you need to use Vim, everybody. You do read space exclamation point blkid dev SDA2. And what we need is this part right here. So V to, and then L to copy that, hit Y, go up, go to the equals, hit P for print. And so at the end of that, I believe what we do here is Arch LV. Yeah, Arch LV. And then root equals dev mapper arch vg root quiet rw. And we go down and get rid of that line. I think that's the way it is. Arch LV for logical volume is the top of the thing, and the root is inside of that. I believe that's correct. Okay, so save. And then exit, umount r mount, and reboot and cross our fingers. Dun, dun, dun. Only thing I'm not 100% on is the name of that first thing after the UUID. Come on. You can do it. You can do it. Come on. Do it. Do it now. Arch Linux Encrypted. Nice. Now, did it see the actual hard drive? The root device? Passphrase. Looks like it might have done it. It did it. Sweet. Okay, so sys firmware EFI. Nice. Okay, well, base system is installed. It is encrypted. The next one will, next time I update, it will be about how to deal with booting. How would I say it? How to mount an encrypted SDB1. Notice that you can't see the data LV because it's not mounted. So we could do, what is that command? This should work. If it stuffs it up again, so it's Crypt Setup open. SDB1. Actually, let me see something real quick. Let's just see if we can do it this way. Dev mapper SD data LV. How does that work? Give me a minute here. Yeah, anyways, I don't know how to do it yet. So anyways, I'll probably have another video once I figure it out. So let me know if you have any questions. Talk to you later. Oh, and by the way, after this, it's just regular install if that's all you wanted to do. So talk to you later. Bye.